You know, I worked at one of the bigger hospitals out here. I was recruited from Los Angeles to come out here in 1987. The man at the hospital who opened the gate, electronic gate, you know, you hand him your card and $2 and you open. One day the gate didn't work and he's in a wheelchair. Really, really nice guy. Had a beard, dark hair, and the gate didn't work. I gave him my $2 and didn't open. So he reaches across to open it and I see under his arms is totally black. And I said, as I'm talking to him, helping him close the gate, I said to him, how come you're in a wheelchair? He says, I have MS. I have multiple sclerosis. And I said, did you ever live in a moldy environment? Oh yeah, I was raised in my grandma's basement. You know, I lived down there. It smelled like mold all the time. Folks, he was growing mold outside of his skin on his body. So I introduced him to Dr. David Weekly, and Dr. Weekly assigned him to some antifungal drugs. And do you know, with our diet and Dr. Weekly's antifungals, he started to improve. Don't know what happened to him because I left Medical City before his therapy was open, but here's the take-home message. So many people ask me about a loved one with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, or multiple sclerosis. Dr. David Holland and I one time wrote this, and you can go online and find it. Multiple sclerosis, is it a chronic mycotoxicosis? Question mark. It's all over the internet. I think your dream will come true for many of you with a serious autoimmune disease if you'll start investigating the fungus link. You know, one of our viewers asked a very good question. That is, do you guys really think fungus is everything? I say you guys because Kyle is here.
All right.
Good to see you, Kyle.
We
Thank
guys.
you. We guys, yeah. Do we really think fungus is everything? We're going to talk about that and autism. Susie's going to be by later. Talk about hearing loss. It's going to be a lot of you
Good
and me
stuff.
on today's Know the Cause.
I love it.
So let's have a seat and begin talking a little bit about that. Okay, Kyle, I must open with this. Dr. Weekly dies. I'm with Dr. David Weekly in the 1990s. He dies. He was my boss over at the hospital. I must get another physician because I realized at that time, man, diflucan and nystatin is what's helping these people get better, and my diet. So I put an ad in the newspaper. I had a little clinic with a couple doctors next door that were helping me out. And I put in the ad, I need to hire a physician on a part-time basis to come in and see these patients, right? And if they want, they could put them on antifungal drugs. So this one doctor makes an appointment, comes in, and he said, I listened to you on the weekend radio, I enjoy your show, I don't know if you're right about, you know, all this fungus. And he leans forward on my desk, he like puts his elbows on, he gets in my space, and he says, Mr. Kaufman, do you think fungus really causes all that? And I sat back in my chair and said, oh no, doctor, I don't. And he said, oh, thank you, Jesus. I thought you were thinking. And I leaned forward with my arms on the desk and I said, doctor, I don't think. I know fungus causes all that. Well, with that, you know, we parted company. But fungus is the great pretender. It mimics cancer, it mimics, and this is all documented, mimics heart disease, it mimics diabetes, it mimics every disease known to man, and yet no doctor, because their education doesn't command it, no doctor knows very much about mycotoxins that fungus produce.
Yeah, I think a lot of people hear that and they say, well, wait a minute, there are other, are you saying that there are no other poisonous substances on the planet? I mean, you know, mercury and the Fukushima radiation.
Right? Everything today is anthrax.
Right. And yes, those are poisons, of course. I mean, you don't want to swallow what's in a thermometer, right?
Yeah.
And so there are things out there that are absolutely toxic to an individual, and that's one of the reasons why we talk about the organic foods and the pesticide-free and all of that stuff. But in terms of, you're telling me diabetes can have a fungal link, you're telling me arthritis can have a fungal link, you're telling me spina bifida can have a fungal, yes, all of these things can have a fungal link. And what's funny is, it's not even controversial for those who are in mycology. When you read C.C. Kibler's book, Principles and Practices of Clinical Mycology, it is a page-turner of everything that we talked about and more, and what you said about being the great pretender. How many articles do we have in the file cabinet? I wish we had just a file that said, it looks like X, but actually it's fungus.
Oh, yeah.
It looks
Yeah.
like Cryptococcus. It
Well,
looks.
you and I are constantly emailing
Yeah.
things back and forth. And then on our website, of course, folks, we have The Science of Fungus that Luke Curtis, MD, good buddy of mine, keeps that up. Kyle, how, if we're right, if fungus is mimicking all these diseases, how in the world does fungus get inside our body?
Well, it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. You're not going to be able to get away from fungus. So when you walk into, you're not seeing the fungus that's on me, but it's here. It's on you. It's everywhere. So that's one thing. But when you begin eating certain foods that exacerbate a fungal problem that's already there, let's say you're eating lots of sugar, that is like octane for fungus. What about if you're eating some of these things that are not in the phase 1 diet, the peanuts, the corn, the wheat, the rye, the barley? These are things that are impregnated with mycotoxins according to Dr. Ruth Etzel. It was published in a prestigious medical journal, and it is agreed upon by everybody in the community who studies this kind of thing. So you're exposing yourself over and over again. Then we did another show where we talked about drugs that can exacerbate a fungal problem.
Antibiotics.
All of those.
In the old days, a farmer would work in the soil and cut his finger bad on barbed wire or something, and then go pick up the bales of hay, which had been outside in the rain. People didn't know 100 years ago, that hay in the rain would create a mold problem. So that mold would get, and he'd have a heart attack. And that's where all this started was, wow, that's strange. The guy's 47 years old, the peak of health. He worked out on the farm every day, ate good food, and he had a heart attack.
Yeah.
And so then his sons are suspect for having a heart attack. But are they really, if they're not exposed to this mold? So you've got your eating it. What about inhaling it?
Yeah, you've got the EPA says that indoor air is more contaminated than outdoor air. Contaminated with what? All of these pollutants, mold being a big part of it. And so when we're inhaling this stuff into the lungs, and then, every time, I used to never care when they did the weather report and they said mold counts are now I care.
Yeah.
I really pay attention to that. Not that I can really do anything about it, or can I? I can keep my diet right. I can keep my supplements on par. I can make sure that I'm getting lots of clean water. I can make sure that I'm getting all the supplements that I need. And exercising. All of these things are huge, and all of these things will help forestall or prevent some of these fungal problems.
John Miller's, our producer's brother-in-law, is dying of cancer. And he said, lives in Arizona, every time these winds blow, he got very, very sick. You don't suppose that mold could be diagnosed today as cancer. Just a thought. We'll be back with more.
Bees are absolutely amazing creatures, and we have much to learn from them. Two of the substances that bees produce are royal jelly and propolis. Propolis is used by bees to prevent bacteria, fungi, and parasites from entering the hive. It is made up of a combination of resins, pollens, and oils. Its antibacterial action is well known, and a recent study confirms propolis as being powerfully antifungal as well. In fact, it was effective against yeast strains that were resistant to antifungal drugs. With the increasing resistance of fungi to drugs, propolis gives us a powerful, all-natural alternative. Royal jelly, on the other hand, is secreted by the glands of worker bees and fed to the larva selected to become the queen bee. Its antibacterial properties are well recognised and has been used by many traditional populations as a longevity and beauty food. Interestingly, the lifespan of a queen bee is 4 to 5 years compared to 3 months for a worker bee. People who are allergic to bees, however, shouldn't take bee products.
Okay, I'm sitting on the edge of my chair right now because we're doing a lightning round. So many of you have requested this. This is where I haven't seen this list of however many items, but he's going to mention it. I'm going to give you my feedback on it. Kyle always tells me just one word response is fine, so 2 sentences later, I'm usually through with that item.
Do whatever comes to the top here. I'm going to hide behind the screen here. Okay, here we go. Bread.
Wow. Next.
Next.
Bread. Okay, so bread, grain, mycotoxins.
Do you miss it?
I love it. But if you wrap in lettuce,
Yeah.
what you're eating,
Yeah, that's
Good.
what I do now. Breastfeeding.
extremely, extremely important. Give the child a good immune launch.
Vitamin C IVs.
Yeah, like them. Myers cocktail was
Yep.
the old Florida doctor, I believe. Myers cocktail. Vitamin C, ascorbic acid, kills fungus. Need I say more?
Crohn's disease.
Crohn's disease named after a doctor. There was a Dr. Crohn's. What doctors don't learn in medical school often is the cause of the disease.
Diaper rash.
Yeast. Interesting.
Eggs.
Eggs. I love eggs, but only with a yolk in them. I'm so tired of people eating foods different than the way the good Lord put them here. Don't be afraid of a yolk.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Fermentation.
Fermentation, yeast and sugar combined.
Headache.
Oh, so many people have headaches. So pain, is it due to fungus? Follow a phase 1 diet for 30 days, see if your pain is 10% of what it was.
I'm not going to ask you grains, good or bad. I'm going to move on to, and I'm going to put, okay, let's get to another. Parasites.
Yeah, fungi parasitize man. We tend to think of parasites as huge worms inside our body. Little tiny submicroscopic bugs called fungus.
Mercury.
Why in the world, if it's not okay to break a thermometer in a classroom, why in the world is it okay to put it in our mouths? I don't believe it is.
Chelation therapy.
Chelate out. DMPS is one of the chelators of mercury that a doctor can push in the back of your hand. Chelation therapy, I think, is a good thing for people who have lots of heavy minerals or mycotoxins in their body.
Academic mycology versus clinical mycology.
Academic mycology equals mushrooms.
Yep.
Clinical mycology equals mushroom. I would love to say clinicians know a lot about this. There are doctors, thank God for Know the Cause, there are doctors learning clinical mycology and how it adapts to all the diseases and lumps and bumps in your body.
Couple more, mycotoxins and nerve damage.
Yeah, so well documented that mycotoxins can cause nerve damage.
Finally, colonoscopy.
Well, okay, if you live the standard American diet, get a colonoscopy. Some of us choose not to because we feel so good all over our body, not just our colon. Thank you.
Good job.
Denny, in the 1970s, it was potato chips. I'd come home from work, could open a bag of potato chips, and I just loved the taste. Maybe I was salt deficient. 1980s, 1990s, it was carrot and celery sticks. Had them all the time, cut them up the night before, put them in a little salt water, ate them all the time. Used to drive to work with 6 or 7 carrot sticks, right? 2000s, early 2000s, cashew nuts, almonds, etc. There's got to be a goodie, a reward for phase 1 eating. I come home from work, I'm hungry. And when you were putting these together, this really hit, Denny, because this is something that's tremendous protein, tremendous nutrition, and you can leave them in your refrigerator and they taste great.
Yeah, they're really yummy. And the only problem with them is you can never make enough. No matter how many you make, you will run out, I promise you, especially if you make them for a gathering where there's a lot of guys there. Because when there's bacon and chili involved, it's all over.
It's a football game.
So all this is I've taken chicken tenders, cut them into little chunks about 1 inch square, and wrapped them in some turkey bacon. This is xylitol, and I use chipotle chili powder, which is a little spicy.
Yeah.
If you were doing it for children, you might want to use just regular chili powder, maybe a little less of it. I used a 1/4 cup of xylitol and a teaspoon of chipotle chili powder. You might want to use like a 1/2 teaspoon for kids of regular chili
Exactly.
powder.
Not much time to chop them, roll them up, and put
no,
the
you saw
toothpick
how
in.
quick
How long
that
does
is.
it take to cook them?
22 minutes at 350.
So you could really, there goes the potato chips. You could really make 50 of these, 60 of these, pop them in the oven, bring them out, put them in some kind
And
of
they're fast to make, but they're a little time consuming just because you have to make so many of them because, as I said,
They
you
go
can
so
never
quick,
have
right?
enough.
Bring your friends over.
I'm going to pop these in the
Okay,
oven
good.
at 350.
Good. Is yeast is fungus linked with the brain, with autism, ADHD, and so forth? Picked up this book, Kyle. I was getting a juice at a health food store in Fort Worth, Texas, before I went on TV a long time ago. The Brain Wellness Plan.
Yep.
I opened the back of every new book up, and I looked just to see if yeast or mycotoxins there. Lo and behold, this is an assistant clinical professor of neurology at Cornell University. His name is Dr. Jay Lombard, and I opened this thing up, and he said he doesn't know why. There are no clinical studies exploring nystatin, which kills fungus. He's giving his autistic children a drug called nystatin. My mind is blown. Using nystatin in autism, however, many researchers, including Dr. Lombard, have reported beneficial effects of antifungal therapy in children with autism, including decreased hyperactivity, better eye contact, and better bowel habits.
Wow.
And I put a big exclamation point in here. Of course he hasn't found it, folks. It's not the sugar at all. It's the sugar feeding the fungus in the body is why the child is manifesting that way. He is craving sugar because yeast has become the dominant cell in his body. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, it is, and I think there are a lot of theories about what is happening in autism, ADHD, all of these childhood diseases that are now, a lot of adults are now having it. And I remember Dr. Carolyn Dean came to Oklahoma City, and she and I did an autism seminar at the Health Food Center back then. And there were a lot of people there, did the whole seminar, we're done. 6 months later, I'm back in the Health Food Center, and the then manager was talking to a lady, and the manager pointed over to me as I was walking in. The lady lit up, ran over to me, hugged me, and said that she did everything that she was supposed to do with her son, who was living in a residential program, actually living someplace. He has autism, and she was bringing him home that week and wanted to talk about it. And I said, look, don't thank me. This is something that this guy taught me. I'm just sort of saying what Doug has always said. And it turns out nystatin was part of the program. A change of diet was part of the program. Was he perfect? Not perfect, but so improved that he could be home. And then we read in Dr. John Trowbridge's books, a fascinating story about a doctor, Dr. Levin in California, who put one of his patients, who was an autistic patient, and back then they literally called it drunkenness. They didn't know what to call autism. They just called it drunkenness because of all of the strange movements that they had never seen up to that point. And it just keeps getting worse and worse as time goes on. So Dr. Levin put the patient on nystatin, changed the diet to what they would call then an anti-yeast diet. Now we call it the phase 1 diet. It was stunning how the improvement changed in a relatively short period of time. It's not to say, hey, we've got the cure for autism. We don't talk that way on this show. We don't play games like that. We don't give you false hope. What we do say is there is a lot of study, and you gave me these. You've got to share these with folks.
These are actually exciting. This was a research paper done a few years ago in a medical journal, 2005. Could one of the most widely prescribed antibiotics, amoxicillin or Augmentin, be a risk factor for autism? And they say, yeah, it could.
Wow.
This is drug treatment corrects autism symptoms in a mouse model. The drug, to me, this is so exciting. The drug is Suramin, Suramin, S-U-R-A-M-I-N. Well, it turns out that Suramin kills Candida albicans and yeast. It's not used specifically for that, but here is a drug, another one that kills yeast. Kyle, you have to... if you have an autistic child and you're thinking the vaccine caused it, look, those vaccinations have proprietary formulas, and I think some of those adjuvants, some of those chemicals in those formulas could activate a fungal pathway inside the body, could turn on the bad guys inside the body. So I've never understood that. I know this one poor doctor was just thrown away for his hypotheses that the vaccines were the cause of autism. In their defense, in modern medicine, you must, before you make a statement like that, prove that vaccines can do that over and over again, and this doctor couldn't. But I think we need to keep an open mind. Why do we put mercury? We know it's poison. Why do we put it in the mouth of children? I mean, there's a whole lot of unknowns. We're each thumbprints. Some of us go over that autism threshold when we get so many chemicals in our body.
What I like about those two papers,
Yeah,
Doug,
yeah.
you've got one paper that says antibiotics are causing autism symptoms. You've got another paper that's saying antifungals are reducing autism symptoms.
And you've got a neurologist saying
Exactly.
an antifungal that's cheap, that's derived from dirt, it's safe, no side effects, but your doctor has to prescribe it. It's called nystatin. Really helps autistic children also. So what I would do if I had a child who was ADD or autistic is I would look at our phase 1 diet for 1 month, and I would ask the doctor for nystatin, Nystatin. Evaluate for a couple of months. Smile on your face. Is it getting better? Bingo, we're going in the right direction. Thank you, Tom.
You bet.
I have a girlfriend, her name is Teresa Martin. She had Graves' disease, and I heard Doug's name through her. She told me that her symptoms were very bad. She was really very bad, and she started following the phase 1 diet, and it's totally gone. She's living a healthy life today. For the record, Doug rocks.
Kyle had to implement a program many years ago. I mean, he had a lot of symptoms back
Yep.
when you and I first met, and he had to implement a program. What have been a few things that have really helped you maintain that program? In other words, Christmas time comes, Grandma sends fudge, you know, we all tend to have a piece or two. And I'm like anybody else, I fall off, and then I pick myself up and dust myself off and say, okay, I'm going back on that program. What's a few things that really helped you maintain this?
Well, you know, I think that when you read any of the Fungus Link books, you see the phase 1 diet in the back of the book.
Yeah.
And you read all of the cool chapters on fungus linked to this or that, allergies, asthma, whatever. And then you go around to actually trying to live the lifestyle. A lot of people, it's very difficult. They're used to having Pop-Tarts in the morning and cereal and, you know, pizza buffet at lunch. And so they're changing everything around. And so what has made the most difference in my life? Just a few things. I think that I can read the phase 1 list, but what I finally was able to do was make like a few menu items. A few go-to menu items. For example, in breakfast, I always know that there's a few things, 1, 2, 3, that I can always go to. So if I'm tired, if I'm in a hurry, if I'm hungry, if I'm miserable.
Grapefruit, eggs, a smoothie, I mean, you do.
All of those things. I'm an egg guy, and so I actually make these egg cupcake, not cupcakes, but I pour eggs in these cupcake tins, and I put those in the oven, and so I'm able to take those out, use those for the rest of the week, you know, and I eat them cold. That's just, I'm a guy.
Yep.
But little things like that to where you have a list of go-to menu items, that's a big deal. Number 2, the advent of smoothies. I'm telling you, smoothies have made all the difference for me. I'm a guy to this day, I'm sorry, people somehow hate it when I say that I'm a nutrition guy, but I don't like the taste of a lot of vegetables. I'm sorry, it's not my fault.
Makes you a guy.
I know. I don't know how to make myself like it better. Now, I like Denny's recipes. I like Kristen's recipes.
Yeah.
I like all the stuff in the cookbooks, and so they make it good for me. But I'm just saying,
To
it's
sit
not
down
my
with
first love.
Brussels sprouts isn't.
come on.
But
I
if you can
just-
throw 6 of them in a juicer.
And I do that all the time. Juicing, smoothieing, those are the things that I do, and that has made all the difference. So I'm getting, I'm telling you, I'm eating more vegetables a day than most vegans eat. I promise you. Which brings me to number 3. A departure from veganism is the whole idea of grass-fed meat. That's made a big difference in my life. The phase 1 diet is meat-friendly, but it's not every meat-friendly. It's grass-fed, antibiotic-free, hormone-free, grass-finished.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stipulations. Beef, which is, as one of our former guys that was on here used to say, it's medicine. It's stopped being a food and it's become a medicine.
Isn't it interesting, Kyle, how when the cow is taking antibiotics in its chow, is getting hormone injections, Zeranol,
Yeah.
you know, an estrogenic hormone, it's a mycotoxin. how that can change the chemistry of that meat.
Yeah.
And then how a cow running around, it's got 2 stomachs, right? And it's digesting food and it's eating green grass, chlorophyll, and so forth. How that then becomes a different way of looking at meat. There are no shortage of studies today that say meat is giving us cancer, meat is killing us. I happen to agree, but I don't think they're able to prove that with grass-finished meat.
I got to say one other thing. There's another thing that's so huge when you're doing this plan, and it's this. Stop beating yourself up if you're not perfect. Yeah. Who is? Nobody is, and that is the biggest thing that I got rid of, was feeling guilty every time that I messed up and then have to return back to the phase 1 diet. It's no big deal, just do it.
What causes hearing loss? When we get back, Kyle and I will talk a little bit about that, and then we'll end today with Susie expounding on that.
So we're definitely all under a good amount of stress these days. So my top 4 tips to reduce the stress. Number 1, sleep. I know we don't think we have a lot of time to sleep, but sleep is really important and helps you to be more productive. So try to get your 7 to 9 hours if possible. Exercise. Exercise, just getting the blood going, helps you detox a little. You can do it in your apartment, home, or outside, but just get exercising. Phase 1 diet, a good whole food based diet, eating lots of fiber and good fats in your meats and your berries and things like that are going to make you feel so much better, and they impact your mood and your stress in a big way. And then last of all, prayer. You can't forget prayer. That really helps me to calm down, get perspective, and decrease the stress.
I well understand people who are shooting off mortars in wars, having hearing loss, but so many millions of Americans suffer from a low-grade hearing loss that we're told, Kyle, as we age, I think we call it presbycusis. As we age, hearing goes down, 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 but does it have to?
I didn't realize all of the medications that can possibly induce hearing loss, and this was a eye-opener for me.
It was for me, and it is for Susie. So as a wrap-up of today's show, listen to this about hearing loss.
Did you know that using an analgesic such as acetaminophen or ibuprofen frequently, like 2 or more days a week, can increase your risk of hearing loss? If you've noticed ringing in the ears, or you walk around the house going, huh? What? And you take one of these over-the-counter pain medications, please ask your doctor about switching to something else. Even natural remedies such as ginkgo biloba or zinc are known to support hearing. I'll see you next time.